We are a convention for fans from all backgrounds, any fans of science fiction, fantasy, horror, gaming, art, and generally just anything geeky at all. That's been one of the fun parts, is expanding outside of like traditional fandom, and because we realize that like people have different kind of stuff they nerd out about, right? It could be history or science or fountain pens, whatever it is. The common thread is that there's a strong interest in something that you want to share with people. So that's the point of conventions in my book, but also Multiverse in particular, is let everybody get together in an environment where everybody feels welcomed and included, like genuinely included. And it happens every October, third weekend of every October. This year it's October 20th through 22nd in Atlanta, which I figure most people know. At the Westin Atlanta Perimeter North, all the stuff's at multiversecon.org.
For this episode, we welcome Kyoko M., who is a USA Today best-selling author, a fangirl, and avid book reader. She is the author of the Black Parade urban fantasy series and the Of Cinder and Bone science fiction series. She's been both a moderator and a panelist for comic book and science fiction fantasy conventions like Dragon Con, Geek Girl Con, and of course, our very own Multiverse. Then we welcome Violet Meyer, who is a happily married mother, writer, folk artist, poet, and native of Atlanta, Georgia, who earned her BA in English at Clark Atlanta University. She's a certified herbalist, life coach, and educator. She is a fan of all things supernatural and loves to write paranormal, fantasy, and horror. She's always working on something new, and we'll talk to her all about that. Then, we'll take a look at the vending aspect of the Multiverse Convention. The wonderful things you can buy, sell, and look at while at Multiverse. So, grab yourself a cocktail, sit back, relax, join the conversation as we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to another Spotlight on Multiverse here at Going Now. We have a great show for you as always, and we're going to start things off with the awesome Kyoko M, and she's feel free to please expand upon my small little intro there that I gave you. Anything you'd like the people to know about you that I didn't make aware of them, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very pleased to be here. So I am the author of the Black Parade Urban Fantasy series, which is a 5-book series. That was my debut. And I also wrote the Of Cinder and Bone series, which is science fiction series. And I just had the newest entry come out in July of this year. I've also written for Marvel Comics. I wrote a short story called Ukubamba, and that is in Black Panther Tales of Wakanda, which is an anthology that came out in 2021. And I am in there with a bunch of really talented people. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out as well.
Nice. We have some guests here tonight. F. Stewart's here. Vanessa is here. Margaret is here. Vanessa says she's looking forward to these guests. As I am. Sorry, that came out very badly. So we were talking to get to know each other here before we started, and you were mentioning that you had been to the very first Multiverse, and you've been Vanessa said, "Poor me." But, you had been to the very first Multiverse, and I'm kind of curious. And you've been to the ones ever since, and I'm curious how it's evolved for you. What do you feel like has been the growth of Multiverse, in your opinion? How do you feel that's gone?
So one of the things that drew me to this con specifically is that it was talking. So, and even in the opening that you just did, is talking about how inclusive it is, and that is really what made me sit up and notice it. Since again, Atlanta is coming up in the world. There's a lot of things that are being filmed here just because they found out. Oh, wait a minute, it's cheaper and there's more land. I'm just gonna go film stuff here and then fly back to LA when I'm done. But I think that it's really been getting more attention just from not even just a cost of living side of things, but there are so many people. There's a very rich culture of writers here, actors, a lot of different things that are appealing. And that was what I think Multiverse really tapped into is they found so many people who are all interested in the same types of things and really enthusiastic about it. But most of all, I think everyone is so accepting. There are so many different people that and some of them come from out of state, which is really definitely something that shows that this con is really moving up in the world and really doing well, is that people will come in from other cities or even other states and they want to be included because it's so fun. The least amount of problematic I've ever been. I've been to a lot of cons in my in my time, and so this one is just it's such a positive energy, and getting to see it expand and grow and get more fans and get more guests is really really a relief. And I think that one of my favorite things is just everyone who's organizing this con is very conscious of what goes into a good con experience. And I think that is one thing that's really, really improved over the years, is that every time I've gone, it's been very smooth. If there have been any hiccups, they are immediately on it. They always want to try there's always someone you can ask for assistance. They take a lot of really good suggestions at the end of every con and try to improve it for the next year. So like I said, it's really become one of my favorites that I attend each year.
Yeah, part of the reason why I'm remotely doing this show tonight is I'm at a film festival that's local to me, and I just watched a movie last night that was filmed in Atlanta and it's about Atlanta. So I get all the buzz about Atlanta film now and what's going on out there. So yeah, and as Vanessa said, Atlanta is such a rich city of creatives. I can get it up there again.
Very much.
Yeah, and Multiverse vet, and wow, 5 books as a debut. That is a low-key humble brag. And yes, you are all exclamation points tonight, apparently. And Margaret added the apparently. And it all comes down to the ux. Yeah. Do you have a favorite panel that you attend? Is there one that you've attended every time you've done Multiverse? Is there one that you specifically target to be a part of every time you've done Multiverse, or do you like to mix it up?
I like to mix it up, and that's another thing they've been really good about is they really find you so they do this real long but wonderful
yes,
where they ask you all of your different interests, and it's perfect because you can really get into the weeds and start to dig into the stuff that you like to talk about. And so most of the time I really like to go to Marvel panels just because I have a lot of friends, but not a lot of them live here, so it's a little bit harder for me to get to geek out as much as I like to. And so when I have a bunch of nerds in one room and I can just enthuse about different Marvel things or comic books in general, I'm a huge Batman fan as well. It's so comforting. But yeah, they switch up my schedule pretty much every year. So there isn't really, I think, one consistent one, but I definitely I gravitate towards MCU stuff most of the time.
Nice. The long form is a running joke here for the last few weeks on the show. So it's getting its due love and mention all the time.
I love it. I was gonna say, no, I want it to be that extensive because that way, like I said, there's no question about what you are interested in and what you can and cannot contribute to in a reasonable conversation. So no, I love it. Every time it comes in, I'm like, I love that they care this much. It's a good thing.
That's an excellent point. And looking at it from that perspective, that is very true. Having filled out so many con forms before like this and being a guest, and there's like ones where they just email you and go, what do you want to talk about? And there's ones with forms that go, okay, are you a film guy? Are you a movie? Are you a book guy? What are you? And then there is the extensive form that we've come to love. And I just love the idea that you know exactly what you're getting into if you sign up for those. So
yeah,
you have nobody to blame but yourself if you get caught in those, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, see, it's so awkward as a guest when I'm put on a panel that I'm not comfortable speaking on. Exactly. Yeah,
it happened last. I did fine because I've just been to so many cons, but I think Jordan Con this past year they put me on a panel that was extraordinary children in fantasy and sci-fi, which I can obviously talk about. There's so many amazing kids in science and fantasy, but I'm gonna admit this, and people can be mad at me if they want. I hate kids. I absolutely in real life, like no, I am Lady McNo kids. I don't want to be around them. I'm never mean to them. I'll take care of them if I need to. But like I'm like the most non-kid person. I'm like the wine aunt that you see in those memes. And stuff like that. So, but again, I was able to, I rolled with it. It was fine. But it was definitely when I opened that email, I went, oh, okay.
A lot of talk about Ender's Game, I'm sure. And
I had to bring up Ender's Game at some point, right? I did. I really did on that panel.
Vanessa says, happily child free. I am so same.
Good. Somebody agrees.
You know, the MCU panels are interesting because they can get really weirdly in depth, and then they can get really generic. And Multiverse does a really good job. I think this is the one thing about Multiverse that I really, really think is above and beyond anything. Even cons that have tried to copy Multiverse in this respect, and that is that it can get so nuanced and finited. They pick out things that are really good talking points for an hour long conversation that are interactive conversations. They're not just here's why Wolverine's claws are the greatest things to ever be invented. You know, it's not nuanced to this, but what are some of the greatest things to be invented in the multiverse? You know, kind of those kind of conversations, and I really appreciate that about Multiverse in that respect.
Yeah, me too, definitely.
What has been your favorite MCU discussion at Multiverse?
I think it was the WandaVision one I got to do last year, because it was interesting because just like you said, the panel's focus was actually the trauma that was discussed in WandaVision, which is a huge thing, especially since like the tail end of Phase 4 has a lot to do with loss and trauma, and so it was such an engaging conversation. Like I said, I always do panel presentations where I have a little PowerPoint up if technology is available to me, and then I kind of I use different general questions to guide it, and then we just kind of feel the room and see what things that people want to talk about. And there are a lot of really good in-depth conversations that we got to have at that panel, so I enjoyed it a lot.
Those are the kind of panels too that probably go beyond the room. And you step out into the lobby or you step out into the bar and you start talking about it, and you continue those conversations, right? And those
and I always want to go longer than our time allotted because we almost always get into a really, really good conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Have you vended at Multiverse before?
Yes. So most of the time I usually vend. I do pretty well. Honestly, just between people seeing me at panels and just wandering around and kind of looking at all, because there's so many goodies. Oh my goodness. There's all over the place. But I usually do a table and it usually goes really well. I've had like hour-long conversations with people that I met at the table just chilling.
You know, last week was really impressive covers, and I'm not saying that your covers are not impressive, but something this week you and Violet share that I found when I was researching both of you is that your blurbs are immaculate. They're amazing. Like you made me just want to read the books just from that paragraph that you have in the description. It is very, very well done. Did you work really hard on that aspect of it? Was that something that you really thought about a lot?
Yes. So in terms of, because I've now done this coming up, past 10 years, that was in July. This is my 10th year in self-publishing. And so really it's kind of a three-pronged thing for me. So one, got to nail the cover. Two, really, really, really solid blurb. And then three, if you can get positive reviews generated, it's kind of a help. It's not as big of a help as people think it is. Some of the newer authors get really stressed out of like, oh my god, I only have 10 reviews or something to that effect. Reviews to me are something that I use a term that my dad came up with called a tipping point. So when you're on YouTube and you're deciding whether you want to click on a video. Now, of course, the YouTube is updated to not show it, but the older YouTube, under a video, it would show you the views automatically, no matter what screen you're on. Now it only does it on a certain screen. And so he would call a tipping point. Let's say there's a video, you're not sure if you want to watch it. You look at the views, you go, oh, okay, it has like 105 views. It's probably not that good. You go to another video. This one has 1.5 million views. And you go, oh, okay, that might be a little bit reasonable. That's what I mean with reviews. There's a certain number. After that, you hit that number, don't worry about it anymore. Your average person might browse through them, but it's not a certainty that they will. And so I try to remind people like, no, it's good to get them, but you really only need to get to a certain number. And then after that, everything else is like, yay, gratuitous.
So it's kind of like playing the percentages then.
Yes. And so, yeah. But no, blurb wise, I know that you absolutely have to nail it or people are going to walk away, even if your cover is absolutely, brilliant. But yeah, I usually send mine to, so Writers Cafe on Keyboards is a forum that has been infinitely helpful to me since I started this journey. And that's where I usually I'll post it up there and say, hey guys, this is the blurb. If you have any suggestions or stuff to cut, stuff to add, let me know. And then I post it there and they reply and put in their edits and stuff. And then we're done. And so that's what I've been doing.
Vanessa says she only looks at the 1 and 2 star reviews just to see what issues people might have had and whether they're valid or not.
That is what I do, except with Rotten Tomatoes. First of all, I hate Rotten Tomatoes, and I really wish our society would stop depending on it. However, the only time that I personally use it is when it's a movie that's on the line. I go, I'm sort of interested, but I'm not like convinced. Let me go see what people complain about. And if it's any of the stuff that I don't like, I'll probably not watch it. But then if it's stuff that I'm like, oh, no, that's fine. Like a perfect example is this movie called 65 that came out with Adam Driver earlier this year. And I was flip-flopping the whole time of like, it looks okay, but then it looks kind of, I'm not sure. And it went on the Rotten Tomatoes and I'm looking around and I go, oh, all the stuff you guys are complaining about is like not even a thing. It's predictable. And so I don't care. I went and watched the movie. The movie was fine. Now, it wasn't groundbreaking or amazing. It was fine though. But the reviews are acting like it was just some shoddily put together mess. I was like, no, that movie was fine. You guys need to get a life.
Yeah. Living my life by reviews is not exactly how I tend to do it. I not even in my own art, what you put out there, you have no control over how people are going to perceive it or acknowledge it. I mean, yeah, it's nice to hear those things. And sometimes it's nice to even get the feedback critically that you might get. But oftentimes it's not even worth reading.
It's not. And I recently instituted a rule for myself when I found this out. Now that, like I said, I've been doing it for 10 years. I will only read 3 and up. I've discovered that anybody who posts a 1 or a 2 star, most of the time, and this is not everyone, but most of the time it's someone who just has an attitude and they want something to pick on and they're not actually looking for any criticism or validity in your work. I just want to be mean and dump on something. And so I just like, nope, don't read 2 and 1 star reviews anymore because it's just, nah. Usually they're attacking you as the author. They're not interested in what you're actually writing. So,
and actually on Amazon, they're more attacking Amazon most of the time. Like, hey,
oh yeah,
I couldn't download this book, or hey, this sucks because I can't do this on Amazon, or
yeah, they'll be like the cover was bent. I was like, I didn't do that. I wrote the book.
Margaret says, I'm sure someone has mentioned Writers Cafe on Keyboards to me before now, 10 years, but I never looked at it till now. It looks cool.
It is. It's a very, very helpful little website. They've got pretty much anything you can think of in the indie crowd. They'll have an answer for it. So I always mentioned it especially when I'm on my writing panels at Multiverse too.
Yes. So which series are you most focused on right now? Is the 6-book series done? Is that done, or are you still got more to go with it, or are you where are you at? Are you starting a new series that we can talk about?
So for Of Cinder and Bone, it is tentatively done, but not completely. So there are a couple of projects that I want to do. One of them is an audiobook, but God, I that's a future me with more money than I currently have. But I intend to have that. I actually I have the actor. It's just that I have to come up with the money, which in this today's economy is a pain. But the other project I want to do for sure, but again, same thing. It's shelved for a time when I'm a little more cash liquid. Is I want to do a dragon encyclopedia. I think that's going to be so fun. So like, just have a book where, and I wish, do I have it over here or not? I don't remember. There's another book called Dragonology, and it's so cool. It's literally like an encyclopedia of dragons, and so like it tells you what region they lived in, and then it'll have like little cute biological, environmental notes about them. I want to do exactly that, except with my dragons. So those are two projects that are definitely going to happen. In terms of just like straight continuing the series, I don't believe so, but I do leave it open. I could get hit with some amazing idea and go, oh no, I want to write another one, and I do. So because even in the author's note for the book the one I just put out in July, I kind of even mentioned that. I was like, this is probably going to be the last one, but I leave a door open in case I want to do some more.
Maybe explore different characters.
Yes, there's some side, especially. So I have a hitman character in that particular series, and I'm getting tempted a little bit to like go full John Wick and like show some of his background, because he ended up being really interesting. Because I needed a B plot for one of my characters, and I came up with the idea of her accidentally kind of crossing paths with a hitman, and he ends up being really impressed with her, even though she's just a civilian. I would love to do some of his wacky assassination stories. I wouldn't mind doing that, because I had a joke in book 5 where he was like, "Oh, is the government on the line with us?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I guess I better not tell them I killed JFK." Like, I know I shouldn't laugh at my own joke, but I like, for whatever reason, that tickled me pink. I was like, I love that he would even say it, like, "Oh, I killed JFK," and she was like, "No, you didn't." And he's like, "Are you sure?"
Nice. So the Black Parade is still going then?
No, that one is finished too, but it is another one of like, there are a couple smaller stories that I think might get published someday, but I have not decided. There's a side character that's introduced in book 3. I really like her enough that I actually went back and wrote another story with her and Jordan Amador, who's the protagonist. And there's a side story that I came up with that I was like, ooh, I kind of like that, but it's been shelved because I was like, well, it's not right now. The idea is only about the length of a short story, so I'll kind of just sit and wait and decide if that's something I want to do. But I definitely have that, and then I did the way that I left it in that last book. There's some room to do some other stuff if I wanted to do that, but that's how I generally operate, is like, if I don't know for certain that something is going to end, then I close up most of the storyline, but then leave a little bit dangling in case I want to pick it up.
Nice. How was it writing in the Black Panther universe? What was that like for you? Did you have a little too much fangirling going on there, or did you feel like you really had a story to tell with the universe?
I did. So the way that happened was, there's a gentleman named Dr. Glenn Paris, who also is a Multiverse attendee, and I don't remember if he's a guest yet, but I met him, and he knew the editor, Jesse J. Holland. And so at the time, Jesse had filled up most of the roster, but he was looking for like the last maybe 5 or 6 authors to be on it, because they wanted a total of, I think, 18 is what we landed on. And he suggested my name, and then Jesse contacted me and said, "Hey, okay, well, here are the people that you can write about. We've already got stories about these characters, so here's the people you can choose from. So why don't you pitch me a story?" And now this particular anthology is based on the comic, not the movie.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing is picking Okoye, even though I know Okoye because of the movie. I was like, yeah, but she's still a really legitimate character anyhow. And so my story is about a young girl who was kidnapped in Wakanda and taken outside of it into a human trafficking ring. And so Okoye is trying to track down the human traffickers and bring the girl back to Wakanda. And the fangirling was immense. It was really immense. I was geeking out the entire time.
You can't help it.
Oh yeah, this is literally on my bucket list to get to write Marvel Comics. So no, it was a huge deal to me. And I did my absolute best, and I tried super hard, and I made sure I wrote it was really good. And he sends it to the editor, and a couple months go by, and he comes back and he said they had no notes. I was like, what? You're telling me I wrote a short story for Marvel and there was literally one note, and all it was a line where I needed to, I think a character or an object had appeared later in the paragraph, and it wasn't in the upper paragraph, and I just had to, that was it. There was nothing else that they told me to change.
Awesome.
I was sitting here with my mouth hanging open of like, how did I do that? All right, good. So, but I have really good practice. I write a metric ton of Marvel fan fiction, so I was probably the natural choice in that regard.
Did you? Is that Black Panther oriented? A lot of it, or is
no? So my tendency is to write stuff from Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Thor and Loki related stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're a big Disney Plus watcher, then I would assume of those series.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, you were talking about the Scarlet Witch earlier on about that panel. So yeah, that's. I mean, those series have a lot of fun with those characters, but the depth of which they go into is very interesting to me, because it's kind of like straddling both lines, the movies and the comics, in a lot of respects. Do you feel like you were doing the same with the anthology, or do you feel like you just stuck directly to the comic version of all the characters you were representing?
I'm not going to lie to you. I was picturing the actors the entire time. No, I wrote it completely canon compliant with everything. All of it's lined up the way it is in the comics. But in my head, no, I was seeing Denai Guerrero. I was seeing Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul. Nope, I was seeing everybody from the movie. Just how
it's
I
hard
am.
Not to. Once you
I was going to say, yeah, I'm one of those people who, when I read, I see it in my head like a movie, which is. It's odd to me that people can't do that. I didn't know that was a thing until like several years ago. But I like it that way. I'm glad that I'm able to like visualize things. I think it really does help with my writing style in general.
Are you a big 3-act structure person? Do you like the structure of a cinematic kind of voice? Are you someone who writes cinematically typically?
I do, but I don't really hold. Okay, I'm so strange because the way that my writing process is sort of like I get an idea and I develop it and I just write it out, and it usually just falls within a 3-act structure by itself. Like I'm not consciously going, oh, okay, this needs to be act 1, this needs to be act 2, this needs to be act 3. Typically, I think my brain is doing it automatically. It's not even consciously focusing on, oh, this is the end of act 1 and going to, it just doesn't do that. So I think because of just being 34 and having watched and read and all these different things, it's just second nature. And so I just don't even notice. Like I'm sure that someone could probably, if they did like a hard read of my books, I mean, I think all of them are probably 3-act compliant, but it's not something that I think about going into the story. I just like, nope, I want to tell this type of story. I want people to be entertained or feel things about certain stuff. So it's more about content for me than adhering to like the more traditional writing stuff.
I felt like the Black Parade, when I read the blurbs for those, kind of had that element to it, like that we were going to see something cinematic from it. So I think that's cool.
And also that one was interesting because it takes very heavy influence from Paradise Lost by John Milton. So if you open the book, it actually has it written in tinier books like it is in Paradise Lost, because that is what it's based on. Like the lore of that universe is basically that Paradise Lost kind of occurred. Now, every single detail didn't occur, but most of it actually was real to their universe. So
nice. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me and talk about Multiverse and everything that you're doing. Tell everybody where they can find these wonderful books of yours. And obviously we're going to see you in October as well. You are a scheduled guest, so that's going to be awesome. So everybody, make sure you get on. If you see a Marvel panel, I think you'll probably be around there.
I probably will be there.
So tell everybody a little bit, where they can find your stuff.
Okay. My website is shewhowritesmonsters.com. All of my books are going to be there, both of the series. And I want to give a special mention to Milton J. Davis. Milton J. Davis is a science fiction and fantasy author. He's usually at Multiverse as well. And I've got several stories in his very wonderful anthologies. So there are 2 Terminus anthologies, and those are both, they're all set in Atlanta, and they're all star Black characters. And they're both fantasy, horror, and science fiction. And then we've got one that's coming out, I believe, spring of next year. And the Kickstarter will be out for that later this year. And that one's called Space Funk. And that one is focused on space travel and alien worlds and different things, but with Black protagonists. So please be on the lookout for that as well. And then I will be having one book from Fall Staff Books coming out probably next year. And that one is science fiction space travel as well.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this, and we'll be right back, everybody. We have a little bit of a sponsor video for you, and then we'll be back and bring on Violet. So, everybody, hang tight.
Regardless what's out there for you, your body is your temple. Isn't it time for you to take control of your own fitness and well-being? To tell your story. In Dungeons & Dragons, chaotic good is a character alignment that reflects one whose heart is pure, but who does not take the law at face value. They question authority and forge their own path based on their own value system and morals. They value freedom and individuality over social norms and rules. CG Fitness views fitness and health in the same way. We are client-centered, body-positive. We focus on the individual client's needs and goals without trying to fit them into the standards set up by the fitness industry. Each client has a unique background, goal, and body that deserves to be valued and considered when working together. We don't expect all of our clients to look, act, and feel or need the same thing. Some clients want weight loss programs. Some join us for the pain management and reduction. Others have worked with us for pre-surgical body change needs. No matter why you come to us, we will find a way to help you level up. There is no one-size-fits-all magical answer to fitness and health goals, and there is no one-size-fits-all body shape. There's no quick, easy route to take. Making health improvements is hard work, but we are here to guide you through the journey. CG Fitness is about making improvements at your pace for you. So now let's pull out your character sheet and roll for that initiative. So if you're interested in how Kira and her team can help you, you can go to chaoticgoodfitness.com/services. So choose your path to better health and good fitness and tell your own story at chaoticgoodfitness.com.
And we're back. Hello, Miss Violet. You're muted, by the way. There you go. Yeah. Welcome to our show. Thank you for joining me. It's really nice to get to meet you and talk to you about Multiverse and everything you're doing too. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. I did a little intro at the beginning that you probably didn't see, but doesn't matter. You're here now, so tell everybody about yourself and everything that you do.
I am a speculative fiction writer. I specialize, although I write sci-fi and fantasy, my love is paranormal. So I do anything that dabbles with the supernatural. So if it's mythology, religion, ghosts, the spiritual realm, that is my realm. Yeah. So those are among many things that I do.
And you are also someone who has attended Multiverse in the past and been there before.
Will be my third one this year.
Nice, awesome. What has the experience been like for you? What do you love about? Why do you keep coming back to Multiverse? What is it about Multiverse that you really enjoy?
I like the fact that they embrace diversity so much. They make a conscious effort to do so. And with many cons, you know, you may come in, but I think Multiverse is very conscious about it. They want to bring it and highlight it, and they actually appreciate it and not do it to just meet a quota and not get in trouble. So I appreciate that about Multiverse. And it's always fun just meeting new people, and the panels are always enjoyable. So I enjoy Multiverse.
Do you have a favorite panel that you keep coming back to, or one that you look forward to doing every year?
No, I always say surprise me.
Nice.
I always say surprise me. When I do those surveys, they probably roll in their eyes because I check everything and be like, okay, whatever you put me on is fine.
Well, I mean, they put it out there, you might as well go for it, right?
Oh.
Especially, I mean, there's a lot of focus in the paranormal this year too. I was finding there was a lot of interesting topics about that aspect of that genre and everything. Even
and that made me really happy because usually, although I do sci-fi and fantasy, I focus more on the paranormal. So I felt more comfortable because sometimes I always try to force what I write in the other genre to match it. So this time I was like, oh, nail right on the head. So that made me happy.
Have you vended at Multiverse too?
Maybe the first year, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think my first year was it 2019?
That was the first year of Multiverse.
Yes, I did 2019. And then I did not do it for COVID.
Yeah, they had a virtual one, and then we came back live the next year, and then which was that was kind of a controlled one, and then last year was a little bit more open, and so
last year was the first time I came back.
Nice.
Yes.
Last year was really great. That was a really good one. I've been the 2 times after the virtual one, so I've been to both of those. But I was curious about the vending thing because I was mentioning this week I have 2 very strong authors who I think have mastered the art of the blurb. I read your blurbs and I was like, wow, this is impressive stuff. I mean, you got me intrigued right from the get-go on that. Is that something that you work hard on, is the blurb aspect of putting it out there?
I do, because I'm a content creator, so I do a lot of digital marketing, and I realize that everyone's attention span is like so short. So I work hard on saying, and especially when I start doing Amazon ads, it's like, what can I say in like 2 sentences? 2 sentences. Yeah. So it's almost like the elevator pitch.
Yeah. So. Brevity is king, right?
Yes. The writer in me, I used to start off with these long paragraphs, and so I just said, yes, it was I had to master the 2-sentence line.
Nice.
So, but thank you. I'm glad it's successful. I always wonder, like, is it really catchy? Is it catchy? Do they get it? Do they see
it? You're interesting because you like to dabble in a lot of art forms, and I'm curious, is writing your first love? Is that the one that you really, really gravitate toward the most?
Writing is my first love.
Yeah.
I've been writing since I was 12 years old.
Nice. Are you? Do you fancy yourself more of a storyteller? Or do you feel like your poetry is because a lot of people for people who write poetry, it's their heart, right? And the storytelling is more of their soul or their passion, right? And so I'm curious if that's how you view it, or do you feel like your poetry can tell as good a story as anything as well?
Well, when I started writing, poetry was my first love. I grew up in a big family, too many nosy people. I would never keep a diary. So I learned how to just write poetry. So I was like, they don't know if it was real or fake or whatever it is. But when it's interesting how I really got into prose when I was in college at Clark Atlanta University. In my second semester, my freshman year, I was not being a great student. I was enjoying the party life. It was my first time away from home. The freedom was overwhelming. And I had this African American literature class that I did not show up to most days. And I remember an assignment was to write a novella. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do this. And I turn it in, and the professor, Dr. Black, who's a phenomenal writer himself, he has a lot of books out. And he pulls me to the side and he chastises me like I'm 3 years old. Like, you can write like this and you don't show up to this class and you have no regard for anything. And he was like, I'm going to fail you, but I want if you finish this novella. Yeah. And I finished novella, turned it in, got to be in the class. And that is when I realized that even though I loved poetry, I'm a storyteller. I grew up with a great grandmother she was born in 1892 and she passed away by the time I was 9 years old. But if you know anyone who lived around that turn of the century, the stories that they tell, like Mama Sadie would tell stories about the freak shows that they saw. She had the best ghost stories ever, but she said they were true. They weren't fiction. And she told the most intriguing tales. And she's talked about how they saw mermaids, real mermaids, and the alligator man and all type of things. So I grew up with a super vivid imagination. So up until I was 9, I wasn't watching TV. I was sitting at her feet, just hearing all these tales. And I swear to God, I didn't know the difference between fact and fiction. I probably still don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about paranormal too. It blurs those lines, right? And I think a lot of times, especially if you're trying to bring some fear to it, you're blurring those lines to a point to make it authentic and real, right?
Yeah. I don't think any person from the South who spent any time in the country don't have a family member who doesn't have a really good ghost story. It's impossible. It's too dark not to see anything.
Yeah, especially if you're in the sticks or out in the swamp area, right? I mean, those are usually, and if you live in an older house out there too, there's a lot that could be potentially dangerous to, well, not dangerous, but probably more aware of than you would normally think of.
You know, it is kind of funny. This picture right here.
Yeah, let me make you bigger.
My daughter, this is a real photo. It's unedited.
Wow.
My daughter put her camera on infrared and put this in the window of my mother's house. And it's a huge yard, no one out there. And we were all standing there and this came out.
Wow.
And we were like, what in the world is that? So it looks like a person to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like somebody's standing there.
Yeah, it's totally unedited. She just put her iPhone on neon and she was trying to take a picture of the sunlight and it came out like that and we were all like
It's like in South America when they find those potatoes or yams with the blotches on them that people think are like the Holy Mother or Jesus or something like that.
The potato chip shaped like Jesus.
Yeah. I'm interested because you do root a lot of your storytelling in the South, and so I'm really interested in what comes first for you. Is it the setting or is it the characters that matter most to you, or do you try to blend both in right away? Does one speak to you louder than the other to start with?
Honestly, I don't know. Usually I wake up with a strange idea and I just let it go wherever it goes. Like my latest novel, Oracles, is based in the South. Yeah. But my novel, Ruah the Immortal, is based in first century Israel.
That's awesome.
So it's not necessary. Well, I guess if I think hard enough about it, it's probably the character.
Mm.
And when I picture this person, it kind of forms. I form the world around what I think they see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. What did you learn about Israel that was so fascinating to you to write about?
You know, I have a master's in divinity, and I studied.
Have you been to the Wailing Wall and everything?
Not yet. Not yet. But actually, next month I will be leaving to go to Egypt, and I will end up on Mount Sinai.
Oh, awesome.
So, but I plan on going to Israel eventually. But I studied Hebrew Bible. So I loved the ancientness of it, and I love Hebrew mythology and Kabbalah text in the Book of Enoch and all of those things. Because I have an Angel Crush trilogy about a fallen angel who comes to Atlanta. And it talks about, it's basically recreating the Nephilim. And it takes like an urban fiction turn in the middle of it. So I think Ruah the Immortal and the Angel Crush series comes from my love of religion and mythology and spirituality.
Interesting. You're also, did I read this right? You're a certified herbalist. Is that correct?
I am. I got certified during COVID.
Talk about interesting, juxtapositions.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. I was sitting at home and I was just studying and I got a few certifications in it. And I put up a TikTok video, and I was so surprised how many people was inboxing like, help me. And I was like, this is what I've learned thus far, but please don't ignore your doctor. Please don't ignore your doctor. Yeah. But it's interesting, and it has opened up a love of nature, and I want to learn how to forage and just go back to the natural things. Yeah,
that is a big thing. Foraging is one of those like popular things out there, and I think a lot of people don't understand. The interesting thing about herbalism, right, is there's an intricate balance to it that I think people don't understand. They just feel like, oh, if I take a little St. John's wort or do this or do that, it's going to do this or do that. But in like anything, there's a combination of things that work, right? And that's kind of that's the thing, I think, the nuance of it that people don't respect or understand.
I think people don't understand is that the earth is here to heal you. It's a preventive measure.
Yeah. You
can't wait until you're stage 4 of something or in your worst possible condition and think tea is going to heal you.
Yeah.
It's about living well from the beginning, or at least in the middle. And it will help you in that way. You're right. Because I think sometimes people will think like, oh, and people don't understand how dangerous herbs can be. They're plants. So you just go take stuff. Some things will kill you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it'll kill you dead.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many biographies about guys who go out into the wilderness and just eat the wrong berry and die from it,
Yeah. Be careful.
I get the sense that education is a very important aspect of your life. Is that something that you aspire to a lot? Are you constantly looking for the next thing to educate yourself on? Is that kind of how you approach it, or do you have certain goals that you're trying to obtain to that education helps you achieve?
I am a person who wants to know everything, and I just love to learn. I've been like that since I was a kid. And I have my youngest is an 11-year-old, and she's just like me. She's the type of person that'll come by and like, do you know how many legs this has and why it has this and the antlers? So I just like to learn. And it's just, I find that the more you know, it's easier to relate to other humans because you can find something in common with just about anyone. I pride myself in being I can hold a conversation with any human being, I feel. We can find something. And also it helps when you're a writer. it just helps you tap into things. And I love it when I write something that maybe a lot of people don't know about it and somebody gets it.
That's awesome.
That
Yeah,
makes
that's a really cool feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, they see it. They see it.
Vanessa, that ties into what Vanessa has a question for you. She's asking, has the herbalism collided with the writing? Have you used a lot of that knowledge in your work?
Not yet.
So it's fairly something that's new to you. So
it's new to me because I'm still learning. And even though I write fiction, I play with a lot of true things, and we're strange individuals, and I don't want to be responsible for anybody doing anything crazy.
There is that too, right? Yeah.
You always have that person like, oh, so this is what I need to take. So yeah. I'm still learning, but I do see it in a future story. I'm writing on a short story right now because I have a short story collection coming out at the end of the year called Preternatural Haze. And I have these two sisters in the story, one a root worker and one an herbalist. So basically they do the same thing, but they just have different intention. And they're going to play more with it.
I'm also curious, on the divinity side of things, what do you think is the biggest misnomer about divinity and spiritualism that people tend to get wrong oftentimes, especially in fiction and writing? Do you feel like I feel like there's a lot of times when that is kind of like, maybe that's not so much a possibility,
As everyday work, I am a hospice chaplain. And therefore, my spirituality is very broad.
Boy, that's a tough gig. Wow.
Yeah. So my spirituality is very broad.
Yeah.
So I have to be able, and I have ministered to Muslim, Jews, Christians, Wiccans, atheists. So my idea of God is all encompassing.
Nice.
So one thing I've learned about religion in my religious library is immense. And that's what I love to study about the world, is that I feel like all of us have it absolutely wrong and absolutely right. So when people write about it in books, I don't mind it. I think it only becomes annoying to me when it gets boxed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is it. Is no way, no other perspective. But as a writer, I think people have a right to write like they want and how they feel and push whatever themes that they want. That's all.
Yeah, I think for me, though, it's not so much the concepts that bother. It's the laziness of the writing that bothers me more than anything. You can tell when somebody doesn't do their research or doesn't, or generalizes to a point where it's just like, you just kind of heard that on the street. That wasn't kind of something you researched or looked into. And that's for me when it kind of takes a different tact or different turn. I mean, I'm with you. I not to get deep into spirituality and things of that nature, but there is, I love what you just said. Everybody's got it right, everybody's got it wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's just so spot on. But yeah, it's just, you know what I mean? There's certain times when you feel like you look at that and you go, that's really lazy writing, and that's not. I probably have more problem with the prose and the concept than I do the actuality of the spiritualness of it.
The way I feel about it is, I guess, because I have to deal with people all the time. I accept people as they are. Some people are lazy. Some people are simple. Some people will never. You have people who will dig into everything, and you have people that say, hey, I'm about general stuff. We're just going to float this on. And I just take it for what it's worth. I don't expect them to be any deeper than they can be.
As being a hospice chaplain, because there are certain things that hospice has discovered about death and written about death that have come, out a lot recently, especially. Has that crept into your writing at all? Do you feel like there's a lot of that you tend to lean on?
I do, because it actually believe it or not, it plays into my supernatural thing.
Yeah, I believe it.
It fortifies the idea. It solidifies the idea of ghosts.
Yeah.
Because when you work in hospice, everybody knows, and the nurses knows, but we call it hallucinations.
Yeah.
Right before death, people almost 90% start seeing their loved ones and talking to them. Now, scientifically, we can't write on our medical notes, they're seeing ghosts of Grandma Sue. You have to just say they have a death rattle and they are hallucinating. But I find that interesting because they're never hallucinating about a stranger or somebody on TV or somebody down the street. It's always someone they don't know intimately. And it's always someone that they find peace in. And they engage in deep conversations. And I will even go far enough to say that because I work solely in bereavement now, I deal with the families. And 50% of those families, they look nervous when you have these deep sessions, and then they'll say, I saw my husband walk through the hallway. I know I sound crazy. Or they'll say, my wife sat on the corner of the bed, or I smelled his cologne go through the house. And I just have to listen and go, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't say anything. But it's interesting to me. And I think it fuels the things that I write. And I think it may be something to that, because scientifically you can't prove it. You can't prove something that, goes within a fleeting moment. But I think if people keep witnessing the same thing, it may be something to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they're trying to figure out a way to neurologically figure that out, but I don't think they've mastered that quite yet. But I'm a big person about all that. Death has been a fascination of mine for a long time. But and so reading all those kind of medical journals about it and listening to hospice nurses talk about it, it's very interesting to me. So,
like right now, my latest novel, Oracle, is about a 101-year-old woman who sees spirits. And you'll see it through her bloodline, like she's there with her great-granddaughter, and she can see. And there's a few other people in the family. And I love this book because it is a novel, but it's a bunch of short stories because it's written in first person. And it kind of reminded me of my great-grandmother. She's sitting there and she's literally just telling these stories.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you see it going in and out of story to, real time. Yeah.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really thank you for taking the time to come talk to me and share all of your insight and beautiful messaging and tell everybody where they can go get these wonderful books of yours. And yes, I do believe that the blurbs will sell you on all of these books, everybody. So, but tell everybody where they can go read them and find them out.
Well, you can find me at violetmeyer.com. That's VioletTettemeier. I'm also on Amazon, violetmeyer.com, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. So if you know my name, you can find me everywhere.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So we're going to take a short little break and give you another reason to attend Multiverse, as always. And then I'll be back to just convince you once more why Multiverse is somewhere you have to be. And thank you, Violet. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It was really, really great pleasure to talk to you.
You're welcome. It was a great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Everybody, we'll be right back.
And now, reason 1112 to attend Multiverse. The Dealer's Room. The Dealer's Room is a collection of collectibles, books, comics, art, games, clothes, toys, cosplay items, jewelry, handmade crafts, and sundries. Shop to your heart's content in the Multiverse Dealer's Room. Creators, craftspeople, and vendors from all over gather in the Dealer's Hall on Creators Alley to showcase the coolest sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and pop culture themed merchandise around. What are you waiting for? Join us today. Go to multiversecon.org and register to become a member of the Multiverse.
Oh, let me fix my theme here real quick because we have the other layout. All right, there. All right. So I'm not going to tell you that, I'm not going to say my usual fare, which is, if that doesn't get you to come to Multiverse, you're coming to Multiverse. I'm just telling you that right now. You out there, you're coming. You're going to come to Multiverse, and I'm going to give you some advice about this specific reason to come to Multiverse, the vending aspect of it, and that's pack light, because you're going to buy a bunch of stuff from a bunch of people that we've featured here. Not only them, but there's a lot of great art. There's a lot of great crafts. There's a lot of amazing things to look at and invest in and just enjoy. One of the pure aspects of Multiverse that I think is untethered and untouched every year is that there's just a level of pure enjoyment about being there for the weekend and being there with all these wonderful people and all these guests that we have on the show, having conversations. And hopefully this sparks some good conversations for when you are there at Multiverse to talk to these folks. Come on, and say, hey, look, I saw you go now, and you were talking about this, and I'm curious about this, and so I think that's a real good thing that we're doing here, and I'm really happy and blessed and honored to do that each and every week. And we will be back next week doing the same with another couple guests and some more reasons to attend Multiverse, even though by now, like I said, you should be already convinced to come. And right now is a great time to get a plane ticket. I mean, this is like the sweet spot for getting a plane ticket to go to Atlanta. So, do that, check it out. Just go check it out. What does it hurt? Go check it out. And then, if you need some help getting to Multiverse and everything like that, and all that idea, well, I can't fund your trip or anything like that. And I can't fund your badge or anything like that. But, I know some people out there that will help you get what you need to get. So maybe, I can help you in any way that I can to help you. Reach out to me and I'm happy to do so. Just so that you can experience what is so dear to me and I've experienced every week. So there is also that. Vanessa brings up a great point, and it's one of those reasons I need to bring back, and that is volunteer opportunities for the badge. Yes, there's tons of those, and they need volunteers. So in fact, next week I will put that reason up. So a little spoiler for next week. But otherwise, everybody, remember that it's always time to go indie now. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. I'm at CineQuest Film Festival right now doing some stuff and everything like that. And you'll hear more about that down the road, not too far distant down the road, but, a couple days from now. And we've got another film festival I'm covering that you'll hear about actually in the next couple of days. So everybody, enjoy your weekend, and thank you for joining us. Come back next week, 10 p.m. Eastern. Every week we do this show until Multiverse comes around. So I'm real excited about that, and thank you, Multiverse, for this opportunity to highlight all the folks that are going to be a part of it. And like I said, it's always time to go.